Welcome to episode 9 of Snapverse616. I'm Smokey, this is Invoke, and he's back, he's healthy. Yay, everybody's well wishes worked.
It took me forever.
We got left in the Canadian cold and whatnot with that car situation. That's rough.
Damn that fucking, yeah.
One belt snaps and, well, there goes the heat. But, yeah, so this week we'll start off with some news. There's not a lot right now, mostly a review for the upcoming patch, but we'll hit you with the stuff J. Jonah Jameson thinks it's okay to reprint.
Yeah, this week's light because the patch is coming and it's a big one, so. Pull reductions go as follows. From pull 5 to 4, we've got Super Skrull, Shuri, Black Panther, Valkyrie, and Bast. So all of those cards are moving from pool 5 to pool 4, meaning they will now be cheaper to get with your collector's tokens.
Yep.
So instead of 6,000, it'll be 4,000? 3,000.
Yep.
3,000. And then from pool 4 to pool 3, we've got She-Hulk. Man, poor She-Hulk. He just keeps getting beat down.
I know. They started her off OP, beat her down, now reducing her in pool, reducing her again. Poor girl.
It's good that she'll be cheaper, but damn, she just keeps getting beat down. Absorbing Man, Titania, and Luke Cage. So instead of costing 3, they will cost
1.
2?
One.
1.
Yep, I got Luke Cage pinned so that if I don't open them, I have them on patch day, which that's the other important thing to remember for these pool reductions, again, is the tip we gave you last time we talked about this. So this is a little reminder, a little refresher, that way you don't forget. Open the boxes day of patch after patch. Do not open your boxes before then, especially if you're closer to finishing Collection 3 than starting it. But you're going to want to do it in any case, because if you are in Pool 3 at this time, collecting cards from Pool 3, that means you are also 1 in 40-some boxes collecting a Pool 4 or 5 card. And if you collect one of those that's going to reduce right now, that's going to feel really shitty, the day of the patch. So definitely hold your boxes on your collectors. Don't hold the ones on your season pass. You can just go, those are always boosters and shit. Just go ham with those. But your collector's level ones, 1 in 4 of those boxes is going to be Pool 3 cards. If you're done collecting, save them, because you're just pop them all open. If you've got like 12 of them or so, you're going to get most of those Pool 3 cards, bam, right off the jump, right on that day. And that'll make it really, really nice for a lot of us who are missing things that we really, really need to go with a lot of the good Pool 3 cards. Like if I had Luke Cage, I could rock a Hazmat Wong situation, or just a Hazmat situation with like Odin.
So, I feel dumb right now, because I know we've talked about this before, but my brain...
Why to save the boxes? It's because if the...
No?
No?
I know why to save the boxes.
Oh, okay.
What I'm wondering, is there an easy way to tell if you've collected all the Pool 3?
Yeah, I recommend, and we always put them in the credits and shout them out because we use them as a resource personally. I know I do, especially in constructing the podcast production elements. But MarvelSnapZone.com, if you register there, they have like a premium version too, which I don't use yet, but I could see the value in if I use a lot of their features. But I have my spreadsheet, and Duke updates that, and we have that, so that eliminates certain resources for me that I would want to pay for. But that said, they have a really nice feature where you can keep track of your collection. So if you just mark down all the cards you have, then you know what you're missing.
So there's no way in-game you have to go to...
Yeah, as of yet, there's no way to see cards. Well, actually, I believe there's an unowned check mark. You could do unowned, but here's the thing: is you might also want to check off all variants so that you're not seeing every variant unowned. But I believe if you just do unowned with all variants off, you could check it in the game. But depending on if you're playing on mobile or PC, it might just be easier to have a collection list that you can look at real quick and see which ones you're missing and stuff. But either way, it gets it done. I think just if you're playing a game or something, or you're opening a box or this or that, or say you're just away from where you can play the game, but you can use the internet. I don't know why that would be in the era of mobile devices, but, God forbid, maybe someplace you don't feel comfortable logging in at a Starbucks or something, but you feel like browsing the web, on like on a incognito browser or something because you're in a public place, and you don't want your data lost. I could see maybe, okay, well, you don't want to play there. Maybe you're, feel comfortable in this place though browsing and you can check it out.
Like the gaming servers are locked. I could see it being a place where gaming servers are locked.
Yeah, if the game's down. It helps too if you're playing and you're in a hand and you're just trying to remember something, about that. It's also just it's handy as a alt tab thing, so you don't have to constantly scroll through your cards on the UI, because especially since it is made for mobile, it's that vertical display, and to be frank, Marvel Snap Zone, when I look at the collection there, I can see more of it at one time, and I find that a little bit more helpful. So that I think for me, that's my preference, is just because I can see more of the cards at one time. And then I can also see what they do real quick. I mean, you can do that in game too, but I can do it with just a mouse over. Plus, I think it's more of a thing you'd want to use if you're playing on PC, purely because of the UI not being adapted for PC yet with the width. But with those pool reductions coming, remember the chests, they generate the contents when you click to open them, so wait until the patch drops and then start opening those again. That said, battle mode's also going to come out with that. We're pretty excited about that. Some of the larger Snapverse community, we're going to be putting on a tournament. We will have more details to come on that. It might be announced on a YouTube short or something like that if we announce that between now and the next podcast. That way y'all aren't behind trying to sign up. We will have info on the signups in the sheet when that happens. Right now, the format as it stands, if I remember correctly, yes, it's 2 brackets. So if you're newer to the game, don't feel like this isn't something you can handle. We're going to have 2 brackets. There's going to be a pool 2 and below bracket, and then there's going to be a pool 3 bracket. And the pool 3 bracket, we're not allowing any pool 4 or 5 cards, just for the sake of trying to keep the tournament as fair as possible. Because we can't control MMR the way that Ben Brode does, by collector level and stuff like that. So this is kind of our way of dealing with that, so that 2 players don't just walk away with the whole thing because they have Null or they have Darkhawk or something like that. That said, we're going to try to have an assortment and various prizes, including channel points to the streamers for consolation type prizes. But we are, for each bracket, I believe, yes, for each bracket, we're going to be giving away as the top prize the season pass. We're going to try to gift season pass, either via Steam or whatever. So that will be a thing that will be part of the announcement, with more detail. And then basically, I think you get 3 decks you can register, and those are the decks you can choose from to play. That way, if you say pick a deck and you play somebody and their deck just literally counters you in the best of 5, you can switch decks for a best of 3 and try, again, kind of thing. But again, the rules will be posted when they're 100% nailed down. We're kind of just waiting in a little hovering pattern until battle mode is actually released and we can try it ourselves. That way we 100% know what we're talking about and doing and committing to in terms of information for you guys. But definitely look for that information to be coming out in the next week. And
Cool.
in terms of the community members, Malkuvius, B Rascal, um, Nico Wabbit,
Us.
us. I'm spacing on one right now. I gotta look at the Discord because I don't want to miss somebody and I feel bad. King Mike. How could I miss King Mike? Sweetest guy you could ever meet, and he does those cool wrestling streams. How could I miss? How could I miss King Mike?
Yeah.
Bad Smokey. But yes, and then King Mike. So all of us will be in some form putting it on. The way we plan to have it is we will not double dip between casters, participants, and runners. So as a council, sometimes a couple of us will participate in the tournament. No knowledge of decks, no knowledge of structure, no knowledge of nothing that isn't already known by the public, and they won't be allowed to cast or watch games, etc., like that in the Discord. That said, we're going to have a tournament Discord. We're going to set that up. We'll get you that info as part of that package when I'm talking about info coming out in a week. And if you don't have Discord, that doesn't mean you can't sign up to play. We will have alternative methods for checking and registering games, so don't sweat that. You don't have to be a streamer either to stream on the Discord, and you don't have to be a streamer to enter. This is a community tournament. Anyone's welcome.
Although I'm sure somebody will be streaming the games if.
Oh, we're going to be casting games, bro. Me and Mal, for sure, we've committed to casting games, so there's definitely going to be that going on, 100%. That's why I was saying those of us that are casting and running the tournament won't be double dipping and participating. So I think like this time, I think Rascal and Mike are going to participate, but me, Mal, and actually I think Nico's going to participate too. But like me and Mal, we're running it 100%. Like we're not going to be entering in any way. We're not going to play. We're just going to be casting and running it. But that way, like we can all enter different tournaments. We have like a council of us that'll run the tournaments. That way, sometimes different ones of us won't be aware of what's going on, so we can enter.
We'll probably throw my hat in there for participating.
Yeah, man. Yeah, on the first one.
I may not be available to cast based on times.
Yep.
But I can play because I can play on iPad.
Cool. Yeah. So
next one, I would cast it. But
yeah, and then maybe I can play. And that'll be the fun. That'll be the fun of it. But we definitely hope to see some of y'all enter and to face some of you guys and cast some of your games and stuff. It'll be a lot of fun, I think. So look for more information on that coming up in the upcoming week or so. And definitely we'll have more information on the next podcast. And we'll give everybody plenty of lead-in time to enter. And I think each bracket's going to have 32 players. Tentatively, but if for some reason we get a lot more response than that, then hey, cool, we'll figure that out as we go. We'll add just more brackets, and we'll March Madness this shit. But that said, I think that's pretty much all the news that's fit to repeat, reprint, and talk about. So before J. Jonah Jameson comes barging through my door and fires us all, I think we are going to go to locations.
Gonna fire us all anyway.
I mean, he really is.
For this week's Invoke's accessible locations, we have Mojoworld and Collapsed Mines.
Yeah.
Mine. For me personally, I found both this week's locations mechanics pretty simple to work around.
Yeah.
Mojoworld, it's whoever has the most cards here gets plus 100 power at that location. So, cards that fill it up quicker, like Sinister, Mr. Sinister.
Or like Brood.
Or Brood, Brood, or
Squirrel Girl, even technically. I mean,
technically, yeah,
Debris.
Because you can place her in a different lane.
Yeah.
Or Debris. Any card that fills the location quicker, you can use to kind of win that location.
Yeah.
Or any location that locks the location, the card that locks the location down so your opponent can't.
Yeah, Spidey,
Uh,
X. The
Spidey X or like a Goose. Had to think of its name. The cat.
Yeah,
The
Goose
Flurkin.
can restrict the lane, make it harder for them to play. That's true. Um, I think that makes relocation cards powerful on turn 6 too, though. Like Arrow, if they hadn't filled Mojoworld and you play Arrow, it's going to move the card away. Say you filled it first, and you just want to make sure it stays that way.
They happen to fill it before you. You can Magneto.
Yep, if they played 3 and 4 costs. Yep.
Polaris.
Yeah, Polaris will pull like one card, like a 1 or
Juggernaut.
something. Yeah, Juggernaut would be like an active relocation. Yeah, if you're pretty sure they're going to play there in an early turn, you can put them there. Or if you're like playing a Surfer deck or something like that, you could play them in a late turn with Surfer or something like that, just to make sure like if they hadn't filled Mojoworld, it stays unfilled, because it's super easy to win there as long as you can just have more cards than the other guy. You don't have to play powerful cards. You just fill it up and lock it and be like, ha. And I did that a bunch with Spidey.
I always just do that with my Khazar deck because I just fill it with a bunch of like typically unknown weak 1-cost cards, right?
Yeah.
Before Killmonger, fill everything up. Like Khazar late.
Yep.
Off everything.
Yep. Collapse Mine I thought was a lot of fun. I played the hell out of my Deathpool Wave deck for that one.
Yeah, that is a deck that works on platforms because
Yeah.
you get to kill a lot of cards.
I
A lot of
mean,
cards that are worthless. You skip a turn.
yeah, and if both players skip at some point, like if no one's trying to Patriot those rocks or something and play every turn.
Which I feel like is a lot of times that's going to happen.
Yeah.
You don't see, because of the deck matching, you don't see a lot of Patriot
Right.
decks with a Death deck. So
And he's so easily countered with just a simple Enchantress, and in a Zabu world, she's everywhere. So Patriot's a lot less favorable than he used to be.
Yep.
So I've seen mostly people playing a lot of Death or playing just, decks where that kind of thing's irrelevant, and they're just playing their normal thing.
A Patriot deck could work.
Yeah. You just have to make sure you play every turn.
Yeah, and it's risky because
Yeah.
you can't skip it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Death's fun because, 4 rocks and 4 rocks, that's 8. She's 12. You're already down to 4. It's like playing Wave without playing Wave, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You destroy any couple cards and she's cheap or free. And
you
so
throw
good.
that in with like somewheres along the line like a Carnage and a Venom, and you're down to 0 before you know it.
Yeah. And you've got a Deadpool going along in that. So now you've got a 1 cost that's beefy, a 0 cost that's beefy, and you probably got a Zola or a Taskmaster or something like that for your final turn. So it's just gross.
My favorite play, Zola that Venom. Boom, boom.
Yep. I shut somebody down trying to do that last night. It was funny as hell. I was playing and I did my double Spidey off my Zabu Jet deck, and they were like,
Sucks that you shut down, but it's fine.
yeah, they were like, well, fuck, because they literally had 1 card on 1 location buffed to shit. And I'm like, well, that's gonna be Zola, and so I just locked the lane, and they're like, and retreat.
Instant retreat. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically the locations this week. Pretty
Yeah.
simple.
Pretty simple.
Easy to work around. And
The ones coming up for this week, though, are going to be interesting with the new location, Plunder Mine, and Asgard and stuff.
One of them in particular, the new location this week is going to be fun.
That'll be interesting. But we'll talk about that on Friday's episode, or the weekend's episode, I should say. And then coming up, we've got Super Squad, so we'll be right back with that. The first Super Squad we have here is a dynamic duo Avengers threat, Avengers level threat. I mean, obviously you got a Thanos in there, and he stole the Quinjet, so obviously the Avengers are getting involved. But yeah, Quinjet Thanos. So
That's Auto, come on, man. That's a totally different game.
Grand Theft Auto. Well, I mean, they were in New York City. Come on.
Dude.
They were in New York City. Come on. That's like Liberty City. Let's go. But yeah, so we've talked about Thanos before on the podcast. We've talked about him when he was first released. We've talked about him since then. And one of the main things we said that would make him really hard to get max value for is the fact that you have to play all the stones, and that's going to require 6 energy across the game. That takes away turn 1 and turn 4. He takes away turn 6. You only get to play turn 2 and turn 3, right? Essentially, when you're doing the math. I mean, obviously it doesn't work out exactly like that, but essentially that's the math on it. And so that really hampers what you're actually going to do, and it makes everything come down to Thanos. And that can be real tricky. Now, King Mike, who we have a deck coming up from later, not a Thanos deck. We might get one of those from him for another time, though. He runs a Thanos deck to some good effect. But this idea here came from one of Mal Kubius's homies, Clown. And he was saying, Quinjet Thanos. Boom, because now all the stones are free. And that's a game changer right there. If you can get Quinjet out early with Thanos and you can start laying those stones down, you get a lot of good effects from the stones for no cost. And, you have a better potential to get that plus 10 onto Thanos to make him an 18. And in a lot of cases, you're not going to be maintaining prio as a result of playing these stones with other cards, right? So it could very well be the case that going into turn 6, you don't even have prio, which means they can't chi your Thanos. And so that makes that even more powerful to have that 18 coming in like that late game.
Mm-hmm.
The next one we've got is a Defender's level threat. And this one is pretty much well known. It's not that much of a secret. Zabu and any 4 cost, but it gets a little more complicated than that because there's a lot of stuff you don't think about with this situation. Going back to Thanos and Quinjet, if you play a Quinjet with Zabu and a Moon Girl, okay, Moon Girl's going to be a 2 cost, right? You drop her, and you keep those other juicy 4 costs in your hand. Well, now they cost 1 instead of 2. You play Mystique in a deck with Zabu and say Devil Dino, you could try to clone your Devil Dino, but if you don't get your Dino, you can clone your Zabu. Things cost 1. Well, when things cost 1 and you've got a Moon Girl, you can do some really fun stuff like double Shuri, double Spidey, double Chi, double Chantress. And it's absolutely disgusting. Double Spidey off of a Zabu 4 cost system is like the ultimate curve and the ultimate fuck you. And the best part is you snap going into turn 5. By the time they see it, you've already got 2 cubes, so it's as good as just winning.
Anytime you can double any card, it's... Oof.
Yeah. And
there are certain that's why I like Venom Zabu or Venom Zola so much, is because you can fucking double Venom easily.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you've got 2 lanes that are
Yep.
disgustingly powerful.
Yep.
Right?
But
instant win.
Right, but the downside is the Telegraph, which this deck can really hit hard because I had somebody try to do that we talked about earlier.
This deck's a lot of because it happens so late.
Yeah. And so with this one, one of the cool things too is say you put White Queen in a deck like this, right? You get her down to that 1 cost we're talking about, and you duplicate her. You don't have to have any bigger card than Devil Dino in your deck in terms of cost because you're stealing theirs. I beat a guy this week who was emote spamming like an asshole. I mean, my God, he was with the Deadpool stuff and the fucking thumbs up and the snapping, thinking, haha, I've won this game. He forgot where I played White Queen the last turn. I had his null too. And when only he can only play null, I've got Quinjet and stuff going on, right? I played null and something else. Boom! Dude. I played null in a 1 cost chi. I killed his null. I killed that man's null. And I won.
And you had your own null.
Exactly, because I stole his. White Queen. OP. OP in this situation because she gets you basically the hallmark of their deck. So you either get the intel to know you need to retreat, or you get a card where you're like, you thought you had me, but I got you instead.
Nice card to save for later.
Yep. So it can come in real handy like that. So Zabu 4 cost is real nasty. I'd say, probably, Spidey, Enchantress, Chi, all those tech cards, throw in the White Queen. And now you're going to want like Collector Sentinel and stuff and all that. But that's, that's a whole ass deck versus just, some of these interesting things. You have
Zabu for that, which
right
now the only way to get Zabu is having bought into the Battle Pass, right?
Yes. And from what I've read, from what I understand, from the official Discord and all that kind of stuff, they don't view Zabu as a game breaker. They don't view Zabu as something that needs to be changed. So expect this card to remain the way this card is for the duration, or at least for the time being. That said, this is absolutely the most powerful Season Pass card we've ever had. We know what the Season Pass card coming out is with MODOK. It does not compare to Zabu. Statistically, what I was seeing too is that right now, this late in the meta, this late in the season with like a week to go, Zabu is still holding 50% meta rating. He's in 50% of decks played. Silver Surfer wasn't hitting that last season,
I haven't bought the pass yet. I might have to just to get Zabu because I don't know when they're going to put him in pool.
Yeah, he's going to end up a pool 5 card to start off, so it'll be a while before he's dropped down. It's usually like 2 seasons before you see them drop down to pool 4 or 3, depending. And as powerful as this one is, I don't see it dropping down beyond pool 4 for a couple months. So
it dropping down at all, actually.
Yeah, or if they do. Yeah, Zabu might end up being one of those Galactus Thanos cards that Ben Bro decides, no, he's an untouchable. He's going to always be 6,000 tokens because he can break a game.
It does, but it's not like game breaking all the time. But it is a card that.
No, you got to curve out. You've got to curve out. I've seen people go, I never get my Zabu by turn 3. I mean, granted, I think that's confirmation bias, but that's another thing.
Oh, that one is.
Yeah, but if you curve out and you're able to go Quinjet, Collector, Zabu, the world is yours, man. The world is yours.
That's like me saying I never get my Venom. It's like, no, I get my Venom pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
I just like to say I don't.
Because you remember the times you really wanted them and didn't. Yeah.
Which usually leads to losing.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'd say this one right here, this is a must buy. Spend that money if you got it. Don't spend it if you don't have it. But if you have the money to spare that you can buy the season pass, even though it's this late in the season, it is 100% worth it just for Zabu alone, even this late in the season. And you've still got a week to unlock a fair few of the stuffs that, little goodies and stuff like that. And if you're that worried about those, pay the extra, what is it, like 10-ish bucks. And you can unlock 10 levels off the top, and then go from there. But
Agent Coulson's in my shop.
Agent Coulson. Mr. 3/4. Not his cost energy, but the things he can spawn. 3 cost, 4 cost.
But also 3/4 because his cost energy.
Yes. So I guess he's just Mr. 3/4 all around. But the next threat we have is another Defenders one. We have Electro Viper. This is a cool one.
This one seems disgusting to me.
Yeah, this is like, you do this to your opponent, and you're basically giving them a solo Sandman, a solo sand job, if you will. It's bad. Wow. It's bad.
We've done triple X here.
But
and not the Vin Diesel movie.
Or the Ice Cube sequel. But yeah, Electro, the main issue with him is that, yeah, he gives you that plus energy every turn, where Psylocke just gives it to you the one time. But he has an ongoing that makes you only able to play 1 card at a time. But if you play Viper after you've played Electro, then Electro goes to the other side, and now they can only play 1 card a turn. Granted, it's going to be in a later turn, you know. So it's going to see its greatest effect against split push type decks, card swarm decks, you know, Silver Surfer, Patriot, things like that. Even Death Destro decks, because a lot of times you're trying to play that Deadpool along with some other stuff. You're trying to play Venom with something. You're trying to play Carnage with something. You're trying to play Bucky and Carnage. You know, you're trying to combo a lot of times with the Death deck even, and this could just literally be a big fuck you. Especially when you get Death for 0 and you've got this sitting on your side now. You're like, well, the fuck do I do now? You know, so it can be very effective against a lot of metas. But got to bear in mind, you're going to drop Electro turn 3 unless you're like doing like a Mr. Negative. But if you do that, it could, I guess in the Mr. Negative deck, you could see this being also a real tight combo. Because if you have these two in deck and you were able to play Mr. Negative, you could have like, you know, a 2-3 that you could play on like a turn 5 or something and just fuck up their turn 6 if you know that they card swarm. So it gives you a lot of options. Granted, the ideal is going to be to play Electro on 3, play Viper with another 2 cost on 4, you know, so maybe have something like a Maximus, you know, because if you're giving them the Electro, Maximus is just going to make them more pissed off because they're going to have even more cards they can't play. You know what I mean? So Maximus won't be such a negative effect there, making your opponent draw 2 cards because you gave them Electro.
Also, Viper wouldn't be a one-trick pony because you could throw a card like, as I was saying when we were off podcast, you could throw in like a Hood and give them a -2 if you didn't draw the Electro or something like that, right?
Yep.
Because then you get the Demon as a reveal, and then you give them the -2 power, which will help you win that location.
100%.
In the end.
Here's a fun one I thought of just now. You could play Typhoid Mary, knock her across. Everything on their side's now -1, and now you can just Shang-Chi Typhoid Mary if you really needed to. Not that you'd want to, because you want them to have the -1s, but you could knock a Typhoid Mary across to the other side and essentially hazmat them without hazmatting yourself.
Yep.
I mean, that would be an expensive play, but say you know they're winning a certain lane and you did that. Cool. Now you've blocked the play on that lane too.
And they win the game.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah.
And you can block a lane play, so if they have 3 cards somewhere and one of them's Wong and you did that, Typhoid Mary is going to take up that space and Wong's not going to get the job done on turn 6 kind of thing. You know what I mean? So you could do a lot of stuff like that. You could do where you've swarmed and they've got no cards, but you swarm late or something along those lines. You could put down a Red Skull, or if you're in a Mr. Negative deck and he only costs 3. Or I mean, wait, no, I did that wrong. That's the wrong card. Sorry.
If you Typhoid married them on a location that they had played Wong, because you could theoretically play Wong turn 4. Right?
Yeah.
So say you waited for them to play Wong, you Typhoid married them at that location, and Vipered at that location, right?
Yeah, they can't play Odin.
Wouldn't that be a -2?
Only if she reveals over there, but I think she's already revealed on your side. But if it's a reveal over there again, then yes. But I don't think it works that way. Otherwise, the Electro play wouldn't be so OP because they'd still have the extra energy. Whereas the idea with the Electro is you get the extra energy, give them the ongoing. You know what I mean? So Typhoid Mary played on your side.
Yeah, you're right.
It's an ongoing though. It's not a reveal. It's an ongoing. So played on their side. You know, it's just going to be the way it is. And Wong won't affect it because it's an ongoing either. But if they were to onslaught or something, and you knew they were going to onslaught, not that that's a popular meta right now, but say you ran into that deck, you know, and you were running this kind of a combo, you could Typhoid Mary where you know they want to onslaught and be like, can't do it now, bitch. Because if they do, they're going to onslaught her too, and it's going to be a -2 everywhere. And that would just be gross. But yeah, you know, say there was ever a week where Onslaught Citadel was like the big thing. This play with Typhoid Mary would be huge because knock it to the other side -2 their whole shit. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential in this combo and a lot of potential with Viper in general. Very, very underutilized card, I'd say. But she can really get it done. The next one we have a couple starter do trios. So the first one is Lady Sif, Ghost Rider, and Infinaut. And yes, I used the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider variant because we're both dudes in power chairs, so he's our hero, okay? Get over it. Now, Lady Sif, Ghost Rider, and Infinaut is a great combo because Lady Sif's going to discard the highest cost card in your hand. Well, if it's Infinaut, bye-bye Infinaut. And Ghost Rider, you play him, and boom, now you've played Infinaut. And look at that, it's a 3-4 combo. Right in order. Perfect turn 3, turn 4. So if you've drawn Infinaut and have Lady Sif in hand, bam. Now you got a free fucking Infinaut. You got a 23-point play for 7 energy. That's
a
nasty.
deck that would work well if you just stack your deck with 6 cost cards, right? And just like
to a point, especially if you were playing like a Dracula or something too. So to maximize the use of it, if you were going to do it that way and play a lot of 6 cost cards, I'd say this would be better served in like a Hela deck when you don't draw Hela, or just in other discard decks as like a mid-curve combo. You could also use it in death decks, where, I hear what you're saying already. That's not destroying cards, Smokey. I understand that. Bear with me.
It's basically like getting death for free, because death is often
Exactly. She will always be your highest cost card in a disco deck, because you're not destroying anything, which means Sif will stop killing Hela, which makes this even more OP. So you really want to put death in a disco deck where you're running Lady Sif purely as an insulator against accidentally killing your Hela if you've drawn Hela early. Because we've all been there and it sucks. But if you have death and Hela in hand, Sif's gonna kill death. She's not even gonna look at Hela. She's gonna be like, whatever, that's just Thor's sister, who cares? She's gonna go after the real goddess of death. Actual death, So then you bring her back, you get a 12 and a 3. That's a 15-point play for 7 costs. That's not bad either. I mean, granted, you get Sif's power too, but I'm assuming you're playing her on a different lane than Ghost Rider.
Yeah, you probably would, because you want to go wider.
Yeah, exactly. Especially knowing that you're going to have that tall card for free where you play Ghost Rider. But yeah, so this combo is very underutilized in my opinion. It's definitely one that people wouldn't think of. But if you're playing someone and they've got a disco deck and you see a random death, that's what they're doing. They're doing that Ghost Rider death shit. If you see Ghost Rider go flat and pull out a death, that's what happened. If you see them Lady Sif and death dies and you're like, what? That's why. Because that's a pretty nice play. So that brings us to our covered deck of the week.
Mysterious Zabjet? Zabu Jet?
Yeah, if I can find it.
I don't know why I called it Zabjet, but...
Yeah, so I've talked about Zabu Jet before. And I have since tuned it up a bit over the weeks of playing it, off and on when there aren't events that punish it, or where there aren't just events where I got to play a death card or something like that, death pool, So Mysterious Zabu Jet, I call it that because we added Mystique. And the other big change was Shuri. So Shuri being a 4-cost, well, the same stuff we were talking about before when we were talking about Zabu applies here. You get a 1-cost Shuri, you play a Moon Girl, you got 2 1-cost. What? I can make 2 6-power Spideys? I can make like an 8-power Enchantress? Don't use it on White Queen, you say? Why is that, Smokey? Because then you get Shang-Chi'd. But if you use it on all those other 4-costies that are like, just under that 9, you've got a power curve going, man. And you can play so many of them. You can do 16 power plus Shuri. That's 20 power, man. That's 20 power.
There's not many cards that can beat that besides like an Infinaut, and you're gonna see an Infinaut coming.
And if you do, you've probably got all them Shang-Chi's, so you're just like, pew pew pew, bye Infinaut.
Yeah.
And you're gonna lane lock.
And Infinaut's only gonna win them one lane anyway.
Yep.
So
Yeah, this deck very, very nasty, very effective, makes people cry, makes them retreat. I get more retreats off this deck than I've ever gotten my entire time playing Snap. The ideal curve here is Quinjet, Collector, Zabu, and then at that
I'm
point,
Jet, Shuri.
yeah, Shuri's going to come down to pool 4 though, so this is going to be a little bit more accessible going forward for people. You're going to see more of this deck as a result. The one thing I would say to kind of like bear in mind is if you want to run this and you have Quinjet but don't have Shuri, you can still do the Zabu jet that was in the previous iterations where we didn't have Shuri, and I believe we had Agent 13. It's not as powerful, but it works. Or if you don't feel that Agent 13 gives you the value, you don't play her enough, and so instead of Shuri or Agent 13, you can play Crossbones. Because Crossbones has the same effect as having played Shuri without having to play Shuri. Because he's an 8. And like I said, you're not going to try to hit White Queen with Shuri. You're going to try to hit, your Enchantress, your Spidey, your cards that are going to be 6 and 8, just under that Shang-Chi-able range. And so Crossbones being an 8, right off the jump, he's perfect for that. Odds are you're going to have a lane you're leading early because of the Collector Sentinel curve out potentially, because you don't always draw exactly the curve that you want. So there's a lot of times you're leading a lane early that they're not touching because you put certain kinds of things there. Like say you play the Collector on turn 2, even if you haven't played many Sentinels or anything like that yet, they're going to be afraid of that card because it's not a 1, and it could be as big as 4 for Moon Girl, right? As big as I guess technically 3 for Moon Girl, and then as big as as many Sentinels as you play, and that starts ramping up toward 8 or so real quick. So people look at Collector the way they look at Thor. They don't want to play in that lane. So odds are you're going to be leading there. You could drop a Crossbones on top of your Collector and just say fuck you, lock that lane up, and that'll come in handy if say you don't get to duplicate your Spidey. You can lock a different lane altogether that you're close in, get the lead there, maintain the lead where you put Crossbones. So it's a really, really solid deck. If you do get to play Devil Dino, and you get to Moon Girl while he's in hand and you have Quinjet out, one of your Devil Dinos will cost 4. So what you can do is you can play one of those other cards for 1 cost, play Devil Dino on turn 5. Like, you can like Spidey lock still and play Devil Dino for 4, and then on turn 6 you can Mystique your Dino. And that's just another Dino. I mean, with 3 less power, but still, that's going to get it done usually. So all in all, real strong. The Enchantress is just handy as a tech card, same with Shang-Chi. There's going to be times, too, where their curve out is for their need for the ongoings is going to be later than yours. Because a lot of times by turn 5, you've already dumped all that stuff you needed Zabu for the most part. Especially if you're going Devil Dino Mystique for 5/6, but Enchantress gets really powerful when somebody else is trying to Wong or something like that because they're gonna play it on your Zabu lane. Why? Because they're like, oh yeah, I'm safe to Wong here. They'll never Enchantress me where they've got their Zabu, except I will. I fucking will. I absolutely will because I've already played all my 4 costs. By the time I want to nuke your lane with Enchantress. So I don't care if Zabu gets nuked because I'm going to Dino Mystique and it changes nothing. The Quinjet's what reduces the cost on the second Dino. So don't care. And if you're smart about it, right, you play Quinjet and Zabu in 2 different locations. That way they're like, I'll put my ongoings on Zabu because they figure you're going to hit the Quinjet. But you're not. So it's a really, really strong deck. This is a good climber. Once you get the feel for it and the hang for it, sky's the limit. I feel like this is an infinite climber. I'm not there yet, but that's because I potato games. But the goal, the big goal, is the early curve we talked about. Quinjet, Collector, Zabu. Then on turn 5, never before. So you're susceptible to magic decks, but other than that, double Spidey, lock 2 lanes. Make sure you snap before you do. They'll retreat. If they don't, they're probably using a duplicator, Ultron, Doom. So just do the math for that before you get into trouble. And maybe Enchantress, where they're gonna put the Doom. Maybe Enchantress, or not where they're gonna put the Doom, but where they're gonna duplicate off of the buffs, for Patriot and etc. Because they're gonna buff the Doom, they're gonna buff the Ultron bot. So just play Enchantress to make those weaker, because they'll never expect that. They think, oh, well, Zabu, like I said. So it can be very powerful. It's been a climber for me. The original Zabu jet, like I said in a previous podcast when we talked about deck mirroring, I was able to climb back from diamond, plat, back to vibranium in 59 hands, just playing mysterious, or not, just playing the original Zabu jet without even Shuri. This one, way more powerful. So definite big recommend. That said, I think we'll go to superhero system, where we're going to talk about confirmation bias. This week on superhero system, we're talking about when confirmation bias is hardest, and that's like talking yourself into thinking losses and sweaty grinds or whatever, or something other than either poor retreat skill in the face of mathematical constants or just the swing of the odds.
The grind is real.
I mean, the grind can be real, but I think a lot of people, if they're honest with themselves, or if they use our tracker, they'll really notice that when the grind seems sweaty, they're retreating poorly. And that's usually what it comes down to. Forcing hands, trying to stay in hands, convincing yourself that, well, I can make this work, I can beat them with this. Overconfidence. And we've talked about overconfidence in the past with overaggression and stuff like that.
That's my biggest flaw. I don't like retreating. I do it, but I don't like it. I'm too competitive. Kind of like a samurai. I like to die on my own sword.
See, for me, coming from the poker world, I'm just kind of like, whatever, next hand, I'll get him. And granted, it's a different opponent or whatever, but once you get into the diamond area, the plat diamond area, you're in the top 5% and top 4 or 3% of players, respectively. So you start seeing a lot of the same people certain times of the days and stuff. And so I kind of feel like that whole thing with retreating and wanting to win and being competitive bothers me less, because I know they know I kick their ass more than they kick mine sometimes. There's people where I've seen them so many times and I beat them usually that they just retreat when the game starts. And that shit's funny to me.
I'm very much the opposite of you. I see this I play a lot of chell, as you know, and I'm sure the audience will get to know.
Yeah.
For those that don't know what chell is, it's chell.
EA NHL.
Yeah, and my competitiveness stems from that. So it's even if I'm getting blown out, still want to win. So I'm still trying my hardest. And it's a mindset that in hockey it makes sense because you have teammates, right? In a one-on-one game, mindset doesn't.
Yeah, and there's not odds. There's just 100% skill involved. There's no odds. So, at any given moment, if you outskill them on the ice in the rink, you win.
Well, theoretically, yeah. But we're talking about EA, which is a lot of bugs.
Well,
a lot of shit that.
But I mean, all other things being equal, it's really a matter in hockey of skill, not odds. There's no mathematical odds to it. Outside of there's archetypes or whatever for the players and stuff, and the ratings. But outside of that, it's not about odds. It's about skill plays. So with with that, it's more like, yeah, if we just play better, we'll win. Whereas with this, it's like you can't play better if you're playing as good as you can and playing your curve as good as it's come, playing your cards as good as they've come, but you're not drawing out in the right way.
By not making dumb mistakes, and part of that, by not making dumb mistakes, I mean, is retreating when you need to retreat.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, because what you want to do, like we've talked about with the pot odds before, is make all your losses and retreats even out to retreats over the course of the game. So when you like lose 8 cubes occasionally, or 4 cubes occasionally, you want that 8 cubes to be 1 in 10 times you bet 8 cubes that you lose it. When it's 4 cubes, you want it to be 2 out of 10 times you bet 4 cubes that you lose it. And if you keep it to that, you're always going to have retreats and losses that average out to -1 over the course of everything, which means whatever gains you have are always positive over 1. And that makes it less grindy, which is why we say, you know, poor retreat skill is probably the worst thing a player can do to themselves, and it's the main skill you got to develop. That said, there will always be bad hands. There will always be bad location luck. There will always be bad draw luck. There will always be bad curve odds, and there will always be bad beats. You can't get away from that. But you have to remind yourself, for every bad beat there's a time you drew out where you should not have won, and you just destroyed the other guy. You know?
Yes.
For every time you're bad curving, you've curved well. For every time you've drawn poorly, you've drawn well. For every time the locations have fucked you, they've taken you out to dinner first. For every time you've had a bad hand, you've had the fucking ideal hand. So you just have to remember that. And if you remember that, that's why retreating is the ultimate skill. Snapping is the ultimate skill. Because you have to gain more cubes when you've got it than you're losing when you don't. And, you know, and if you can do that, it's not a grind. But it is a grind, you know, and it feels like you're always stuck in the same spot if you don't remember that the odds are going to sway evenly and you don't just play to the system. Because if you just play to the system, you will always gain. So I'd say recognition of these situations and like circumstances, but combined with that willingness to just let go and retreat is just, it's key. It's key. It's everything. Because trying to force like that hand, that game runs counter to maximizing your cubes and your gains, right?
I mean, a lot of that mindset, like you said earlier, comes from the fact that you coming from a poker world.
Yeah.
Right? And poker is a whole other beast compared to most games. So
Yeah.
it's a tough mindset to get into.
Yeah. I think that's what adds the extra layer for me for this game of interest beyond, say, like Magic and stuff like that, is the fact that they have this poker element with the snap.
I was gonna say, like, even with me, like, I'm coming from a lot of TCGs. Like, I've played pretty much every TCG out there. I have a large pool of experience when it comes to TCGs.
Yeah, and I've played like 3.
I would say that I'm not in a, like, I wouldn't say I'm a top player. Like, I can't compete.
You got to Mythic and Magic. That's pretty top.
Which, yeah, at the time I did it, there was like, I was in the 1% of people to do it. So, I'm pretty good when it comes to TCG games. This game, I get stuck in gold. Like, right now, I'm rank 44. Keeping in mind that there was like a week there that I didn't play at all. So
yeah, you were sick for a week. That'll kill some games.
Yeah, so I should probably be in whatever is above gold, 50, which is what, platinum?
Yeah, gold, plat, diamond, vibranium, omega, galactic.
I should be in plat, but I missed that week. So the furthest I made it was 49, and that was the other day when I rolled off like 4 straight 8-cube wins.
Nice.
Which was insane, because people just kept snapping, and I'm like, gonna snap. Okay.
Gonna snap. Okay.
And just stole 8 cubes from them over and over and over. And I think I was playing a bunch of people that were new to the game. It was bad.
Nice.
It was really bad. I felt bad.
Yeah. One of the things
Fun.
I think to keep in mind too is, see, with other TCGs, I think one of the main things with other ones is that, like, those games don't play quite as quickly in some of them. I mean, some games, like I guess like Yu-Gi-Oh, Hearthstone and stuff, can play pretty quick. But I always felt like Magic or like Star Wars trading card game. Those were the ones I played when I was a kid. And Magic I stuck with, as I got older, because it was the one that stayed around. But those games always seemed a little longer than anything I've ever played in Snap, unless somebody's like BMing and taking 10 years to, because they're salted. Like, these games are like a minute or two.
TCG. This is probably the quickest TCG for sure.
Yeah. So, what that means is, keep that in mind. Like, don't worry about losing a cube or two. Don't worry about a streak of losing a cube or two. Hell, you can lose an entire like rank, one rank of 10 cubes. Don't let it get to you. Just because it's -1, -1, -1, -1, -2, -1, -1, no big deal. Because all it takes is a couple of them good wins where you snap properly and all that stuff, where you do curve out to overcome that, and then some. And
I just got armored.
But yeah, so the games are so quickly that there's no reason to stay in that game, that hand, with that bad draw, trying to draw out, than just retreating, getting a new draw, and taking it to him on the next one if you get your curve. But that said, there's also no reason to force a curve that didn't draw out completely, when you can lose 1 to 2 cubes to just see a new hand, where you might curve out completely. So, like, say you did get on Zabu Jet, you got, your Quinjet collector Zabu played, but then you've got, like, not Moon Girl, not Spidey, you've got, like, White Queen, Dino Mystique in your hand, and you're just like, fuck, I don't got a turn 4 for this curve now, because you've got, like, one card that's cheap, and so the whole curve meant nothing because you're just wasting all the energy and only playing the one card anyway. So when something like that happens, just retreat. Don't sit in the hand trying to talk yourself into figuring out how to win it. These games last a minute. Like, fuck it, get another one. Beat the next guy.
Game I've had is 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I think they were running an Agatha. They didn't really take a quick end turn.
Oh yeah, so they all just took forever. That's funny. Agatha all along. Wink. But yeah, so,
I was actually a of that show.
Right.
Me all along. It wasn't.
Yep. But if you snap properly, when you do curve out, you'll still gain 3 to 7 cubes despite that previous retreat, right? Even if you lost 1 to 2 before, you still gain 3 to 7 depending on the snapping. So, I mean, don't worry about retreating. It's really not a big deal. Like we've said before, sometimes a retreat is the only way you can win. And that's because winning is increasing your bankroll, like we've talked about before. And in this game, your bankroll is your cubes, your cube level. And you don't want to give those away. Now, going back to bad beats, they are going to happen. But if you don't focus on them, you're okay. Because you can't. Because if you focus on them, that's going to put you on tilt. That's going to affect you. That's going to make you play harder. If you ever played a game where the dude snaps the second the game starts and you're like, well, somebody fucking hurt him in the previous game. That dude's tilting because he's trying to get his games back, or cubes back.
I'm literally in one of those games right now.
Right? And, so, like, you don't want to be that guy. You want to be the guy that's like, bad beats happen. Cool for you, dude. Good luck. I've also had 1024 Black Panther before. Thumbs up, like, like, just don't let it get to you. And I say that because I don't think anyone in the history of Snap thus far has seen a beat badder than my baddest beat. And it didn't even get to me. I laughed. On stream, I laughed. And that was that 1 in, 100,000 triple leader draw and play that we talked about a couple weeks ago. And didn't upset me.
You had one worse.
No, that was the worst one. Was the triple leader. The odds of that is the worst beat I've ever had. There's nothing that can be worse than that.
And fucking Black Panther that you faced, that I have a screenshot of. Pretty much.
I mean, okay, facing that really big Black Panther was pretty nasty, but it's not as bad as the odds, the sheer odds of somebody having 3 leaders, because 2 draw out. 1 from Nick Fury, 1 from X-Mansion, and 1 because he had it in his hand all along. I mean, that's a 1 in 100,000, you know. The Black Panther thing probably happens on the like the frequent tip, you know. Like, I bet you if I was to like poll Twitter and get every Snap player on Twitter ever that's on Twitter to go and tell me if they've ever been beaten by the Black Panther way, or if they've been had by 3 leaders because of like location and card draws, I think we're going to get a lot more people that are like, yeah, I've been beat by a big Black Panther. You know what I mean? Whereas like this 1 in 100,000 triple leader is just disgusting. But that said, you know, that's a bad beat. Didn't affect me. I just went and played the next hand. Who cares? You know, who cares? I'm sure that guy laughed and was like, ha ha ha, ha 3 leaders. Whatever, who cares? He's a leader player. Fuck him anyway.
Speaking of 8 cubes, I just got 8 cubes.
Well, there you go. See, if Jeremy can do it while casting a podcast, you can do it while focusing. So, so tournament play.
Really?
Right. So tournament play is coming up. So we want to talk a little bit about that too. Sorry, what?
I'm really excited.
Oh, me too. It's gonna be the pro scene and all that stuff, and I just want to get in on it. I want to have a part of it. I wanna cast things and talk about things and do stuff, and I don't want to go pro because I suck. But I would love to coach a Snap squad or some shit, dude, because my brain's great for this. I just potato when I'm playing. That's yeah. So that said, I would say for tournament play, with that coming up, we'll give you a little overview of how tournament play goes and changes based on how it works in poker. So it always played differently in poker. Now, I used to play poker 2 ways. I used to enter sit and goes, which is like 1 table or multiple tables depending on the sit and go, and you get in there and you have a chip stack of like 1,500, and it's not actual dollars, you know, it's just representative chip stack, and whoever takes it all, you know, wins. But usually the top 4 positions money out, which means you can either at 4 you can re-enter another sit and go free with a little change in your pocket. At 3 you can enter 2. You know, at 2 you've profited a bit, and 1, I mean, you made the money. And so I used to play those a lot, and I would come in the tops like almost every time. Like I would money almost every time. And you know, if there's any doubt, let me just say this: if I don't get pissed off by a 1 in 100,000 leader play, do you think I get pissed off in tournament play when somebody does some shit? Fuck no, I don't care. So my patience and ability to just like not give a fuck literally means that I can money out because I'm not trying to risk it in certain situations. So I'm like, ooh, but I could have it. I'm like, nah, I'd rather have money. So it's the same thing with like, I'd rather have cubes. You know what I mean? I'd rather have cubes than like, ooh, I could win this hand. So in tournament play, that's going to matter even more than normal play, like table stakes and grinding cubes and stuff, right? Because in table play, you know, you can keep re-upping. You can keep putting money on the table. You can keep cashing in for more and having people take you for it. Same as you can have your rank keep deranking and deranking and deranking, right?
Yeah.
So like, obviously this stuff's going to play a little different, and we're definitely going to cover it more in depth next week in the next episode, because we'll know more about how the battle mode plays. We'll know more about the specific like tournament stuff that we see around, because there are going to be a lot of day 1 and 2 tournaments. People are going to be jumping on that to do it just to do it. Whereas us and our Council of Snap homies, we're just kind of taking our time with it because we want to put on a quality tournament as best as we can for all of you. That said, there's going to be a difference between, you know, like the 1 and 2 cubes, like for retreats, because from what we understand so far, it's a total like cube pool, and you're going to play against each other, you know, until the cube pool is exhausted. and we've talked about, in the previous week. Now Jeremy wasn't here for that, but we did talk about last week how later turns are going to get more high stakes, just like blinds go up in tournament play and get it more expensive to enter hands. So like you do have to enter, hands in a sit and go to money out. You can't just avoid playing, kind of thing. And similarly, in a head-to-head here, you can't just like retreat out all the time, because he's just going to grind away your cubes slowly and win. So the difference between 1 and 2 cubes will matter more for retreats now, because it's losing 2 cubes when, say, your total pool is 10 or whatever it was that we talked about last week. That's going to matter more.
In the end.
Yeah, because now with 2 cubes gone, one big hand, and he knows that, can kick you out of it completely, which allows him to bluff you when he thinks you're not 100% certain. So that 1 cube retreat early is going to matter. And you're going to see a lot of people that want to just snap, and those are the people that in sit and goes would shove all in on turn 1 and just be like, fuck it, let's go with the odds. I've got a decent enough pocket pair, or a decent enough like suited combo, or high face cards that weren't pairs or whatever. I got a decent draw, fuck it. But a lot of times those guys go out early too, and then that's money lost.
After that 1 extra cube loss that'll bring you down to 8, what you're going to end up seeing is they're going to know that you have cubes left, so they're going to snap right away to try to get you up to 8.
Yep.
You're either going to have to retreat or draw the right.
Yeah, and that's just going to give them more intel, because they're basically going, tell me what you got. Did you get your curve? Didn't you? Let me know, because they snap. Now you got to tell them, ooh, I'll stay in this one. They're like, all right, you got your curve. Let me see how you play. And then they can choose to snap, not snap, but they can choose to stay in it, or, they know that when you snap, they need to retreat, and it gives you a disadvantage because it's going to be harder for you to draw out the 8 cubes now. So it's really going to come down to that early retreat and that first hand, not blundering that. That said, I think a lot of tourneys are going to have best ofs, like, 2 or 3, or 2 of 3, or 3 of 5.
Most tournaments do.
Yeah, and
TCGs.
Yeah, and a lot of TCGs also have like the option to swap decks and try again for a shorter series, and see if you can win again.
Usually they like to register 3 decks. That's usually the rules.
Yeah, and that's the way we've got it structured, because Mal, similarly to Jeremy, and we had Mal on a couple weeks back as the guest. Similar to Jeremy, he's played a lot of trading card games for a lot of his time, so he's very familiar with these things. But yeah, so seeing deeper turns for 2 cubes post snap number 1, like we said, could prove more problematic as a result of that first hand. But identifying decks sooner becomes more important. And so if you can be the guy that gets that retreat, gets that forced retreat, that first hand, then you've got a better chance of identifying decks sooner, because you can use the snap to just find out if they've drawn a curve or not. So you'll be able to identify their curve quicker or not. And then just knowing your own deck in these situations might not be enough. You might have to know player tendencies. You might have to research into people you're playing to find out what the opponent tendencies are. For instance, I've got somewhere over here, I've got an actual thing of paperclip. Here it is, right here. This set of 3 index cards right here. These are players I face frequently. And I don't mean, I've seen that guy, this is the second time I've seen him. No. These are people I've seen 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. And I write them down. Like this guy. He plays fucking Zabu, Sarah, Brood, Patriot with a Surfer. He's a psycho. And I don't like playing him, and I retreat. This one I had to write down the Korean calligraphy, the letters, the alphabet. So I hope I did it justice, because that was this player, and I've seen him a million times, enough that I could actually recognize that name in Korean. That's how many times I've seen the dude. And I was just like, all right, you're a fucking sunspot with a late tall curve, and I'm fucking out of here because I'm tired of losing to you. But I mean, the deck tendencies that I keep, stuff like that might be even more important information going into tournament play.
100% is. Like, I've been dabbling in competitive for TCGs but also I've been getting into other competitive, like I said, hockey earlier.
Yeah, you've been
but also
joining leagues for that.
Yeah, dabbling in some like Pokemon competitive. Knowing your opponent,
Yep.
of your opponents,
Yep.
in all those situations when you get to the competitive level,
Oh yeah.
is key to success.
Yeah, because at the competitive level, it's like just it's a game of like inches, like football. You know, it's a game of inches at that point. Just the tiniest things, either direction, and boom. Exactly.
Basically, is what it boils down to.
Yep. And knowing what they're doing and being able to recognize that mistake will give you the advantage, as opposed to not knowing what they're doing and being like, oh man, they're curving out and I need to retreat. If you know their tendencies and know their turn plays and know how they do, you could be like, hey, that guy's holding that card for this turn and he's just thinking that I'm not going to know it, but I do, so fuck you, retreat. You know, like you'll be able to suss out those situations a lot better that way.
So, while focusing on the podcast, I just had back-to-back 8-point games.
See? That just tells you, focus on your snapping and retreating, because even Jeremy, half paying attention, that's the key to his wins here. So that's the superhero system for this week. Next week we will have more in-depth on tournament play and how to handle that. Based on what we see in the first week of tournaments, watching them on streams and stuff like that, and as we put ours together further and etc. So next up we will have counterculture. This week we have countering Zabu. So the first one we have is Rogue versus Zabu. And this one was effective on, like, especially effective on night one. I've talked about before, where Rogue literally just went and ate all those Zabus everybody just paid for up. So, like, I bought the season pass and did not play Zabu on night one. I just played Rogue because make your Zabu my Zabu. Why waste time playing a Zabu? Fuck it.
In night one, a lot of people are just learning how to play it.
That too, yeah.
You're taking advantage of, like,
yep.
You know how to play your deck because you're not changing your deck, and they're experimenting with theory. So
yep.
You're more likely to get bigger draws, bigger cubes on early season because you got people theory crafting. That's going to change come the patch because you're going to get people that are going to play against friends.
Yeah.
The theory crafting.
Yeah.
Versus playing ranked.
Exactly. So you're going to see a lot more people that don't make mistakes in ranked that are silly because they're trying a new deck. So it's going to be that much more important to get your snaps and your retreats in line for next ranked season. That said,
it just increases the economy of the game and it stabilizes it, basically. Makes the game stronger in the end. I actually like what they're doing. When they first announced it, I was like, I don't feel about that. But no, it actually keeps the game stable.
Yeah.
In the long run, keeps it healthy. It doesn't make the community toxic, and unlike a lot of these other games.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not gonna name drop.
It'll reduce the number of guys who go Deadpool, and then get their ass kicked by me stealing their null. It'll reduce a lot of that because there'll be fewer of those players. There'll be fewer people tilted.
That being said, I think we're gonna see a growth of metagamers.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's brings me back to I was gonna say this week, right here, could be a make or break for your future ranking. Because it's gonna get harder. So if you are on the threshold of plat, you want to make it. If you are on like the threshold of being reduced to plat, so say you're about to hit Omega, make sure you try to hit Omega this season because you do not want to be in that reduced player pool or that more refined and learned player pool and trying to climb out. And hope that you'll be able to do it the same as you did in previous seasons, because you might find that you will rank down one. So try your damnedest to hit that next rank threshold above where you are now in that next week. For me, I'm going to try to be hitting Omega. I am almost Vibranium finally, and it was the worst climb this season of all seasons. So if it's going to be
I'm
worse
almost
next
at
season,
flat. I'm really trying to hit flat. That's my goal.
yeah,
Flat.
yeah, and that'll plat will at least you'll only D rank. Let's see, gold, silver, bronze. So it's a little easier because you're not in the bottom three, so it's a little easier to get out of. But that said, gold is about the 20% threshold of players. So 1/5 of players are in gold or above, which means you're playing in a fairly deep pool in gold, which means it's going to be more Wild West, which means it's going to be more weird cube swings and stuff like that. So if you can, try to get yourself set up to not have to play through gold next season. You did what?
I said I literally just said back to back. So
Yeah.
that's how wild.
Yeah. If you can have back-to-back 8 cube games without paying attention, anybody can. But Enchantress versus Zabu, that's the next one. So Rogue versus Zabu, she wins, hands down. Just it neuters the Zabu deck, just takes the whole point of it away.
Only wins if it's played at the right time.
Exactly.
If it's played too late, then Zabu wins.
Yeah, like you're not gonna know where they're gonna play Zabu unless like you're really good at prediction. In which case, you're not gonna be able to just flip Enchantress without Prio on turn 3 and be like, ha ha, very often, unless you're just like Daniel Negreanu, unless you're like B Rascal of Marvel Snap, you're not gonna be able to do that. Negreanu? I don't know. He can retire if he wants to. All I know is he's the greatest poker player of all time, in my opinion. I have seen that man literally tell people, you're holding this and this, and be right more times than anyone I've ever seen do that in the history of poker. And he doesn't just know like one person at it. He knows fucking every card everybody's holding at every table he ever plays at, and it blows my mind.
They just destroyed my dad.
But Enchantress versus Zabu can still be powerful because you take away like a big swing on turn 5, right? So if they play Zabu turn 3 and you play Enchantress on it turn 4, you're taking away the double Spidey. And that is still important. So you're not going to like have the same effect as Rogue in terms of being able to counter it like for cheap on turn 4 and play something else, and then also have the buff so that you can play 4-cost cards at the cheap going forward. But Enchantress is still, in my opinion, more effective because she has 4 power. And that allows you to dupe her with Shuri in a Zabu deck to be 8, and that's way more than anything Rogue can ever give you because she would just be a 2, and who cares? So I'd say Enchantress over Rogue for countering Zabu. That's why you don't really see Rogue in my Zabu jet. That said, another counter is Sandman. This one's a really solid one. So if you're running a deck where you can benefit from Sandman, or if you can pull off that Polaris Electro that we talked about before, you could really do some damage to a Zabu deck. Granted, I'd say the Electro play probably only hurts them for a turn or so because they're probably also running Enchantress. But Sandman, well, that's going to be on your side of the board, so they have to Enchantress it, and by the time they do, it's going to be a little late for them to really maximize their Zabu game. So Sandman, if you're running into a lot of Zabus, that would be the counter. I would probably want to run a deck built around solid curve out, 1-cost card at a time, and Sandman kind of thing, you know, almost like the way you build Agatha around Disco to get rid of Agatha but play one card a turn. You're going to want to build a one card per turn kind of deck for Sandman. That way, you know, you're set up for your ultimate curve, and then you've destroyed their ability to play multiple cards, which will make them retreat. So Sandman, if you're running into a lot of Zabu, or if you can't get the season pass, or if you're just purely free to play, I would say Sandman and Enchantress are your best bets. Enchantress can, as a tech card, slot into most stuff. Sandman will probably require more specific deck build, but both of them are definitely quality options. Rogue's good if you've got that and whatnot, but if you've got her, you're already in a pool situation where you have Enchantress and Sandman, unless you're sitting in pool 2 and did like the Christmas event or something, and then you might have Rogue from the variant. But one of the things we talked about a little bit before, and with Mal, and we were hoping to have him back to talk about at some point in the future, but we're going to talk a little bit about now, is does Zabu break the game? And since we talked earlier in this podcast about Ben Brode saying, more or less, from what we understand on the Discord, they're not probably going to mess with this card anytime soon. I don't think he considers it game breaking, and I don't either, because it's too easily countered.
I would agree that it's not game breaking. One, it affects 4 cost cards, right? So 4 cost cards, you only get 7 energy if you're playing a Magic deck. You only get 6 energy a game, so it's like, it's not...
Yeah, to get the most out of it, you have to curve out your Moon Girl and Quinjet just right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everything's going to cost 2 or you know, whatnot. But if you get both of those out and you duplicate the cards you really want to play from the 4 costs, then yeah, they cost 1. You can do a lot of damage, but...
Only way... Yeah. Like... I don't think they haven't really had any cards so far, in my opinion, that have been super game breaking.
Yeah, I feel like Silver Surfer felt the most game breaking to me, more so than even Zabu. And the reason I say that is because it came at a time when we weren't seeing something like that and decks like that very often to that point. Like around that time, you're seeing a lot of Sunspot Infinauts. You're seeing a lot of like Black Panther Wongs. You're seeing a lot of tall decks. And then Surfer comes out, and all of a sudden people are like, Swarm concept?
The closest thing to Surfer that we'd seen prior to Surfer
was Khazar.
Was my Khazar deck. And nobody played my Khazar deck.
Yeah, they did, but then Surfer came out and they kind of stopped.
Well, Surfer and Killmonger.
Yeah. Well, Killmonger, I think, was already in the game, but yeah.
It started getting a lot more use.
That is true. It did. It did. It's a very low-cost card. People were running a lot of Destro, like as mid-curve even, just for like Moon Girl Dino decks early. That was an early meta, Moon Girl Dino. So Moon Girl Dino with Zabu brings back an old meta with a new look. So I really don't think Zabu's game breaking, because we've seen this deck before, just different.
I agree.
Yeah. The fact that it's played in 50% of decks and people aren't going, I can't beat Zabu constantly, I think means, it's not that game breaking. I mean, it's nasty. It's probably one of the nastiest decks you can play, hands down, short of Darkhawk Null type situations. But, I mean, it's still very, very effective, very nasty. And I think one of the things it allows you to do is kind of counter the swarm play of Silver Surfer with the tall yet wide play of all these 4-cost cards with like a Dino and Mystique stacked in there. So I mean, it gives you a nice set of options, but it's also easily countered, and to really pull off like the absolute win, where it's not like you're counting numbers and like, okay, do I think they got that? Like, you got to double Spidey, and which means you got to curve out, a Moon Girl and a Zabu at the right time, and preferably that Quinjet, just to make it even cheaper and to get more power with Shuri, going into your Spideys to make them 6 instead of 3.
Yeah.
And then Black Panther and Silver Surfer, we've talked about them in terms of were they game breaking when they came out. We've seen those decks when they were out. They were popular. Nobody was like, oh my god, I can't counter this. So that makes me think about Miles Morales a bit. Now, this one was interesting because he was out during that Moon Girl Dino meta, and movement decks, I think, saw more use back then, but at the same time, you still didn't see them a ton. And so Miles Morales, he was a nice little combo back then, because I think there were a lot more players that were early pool 3, and so having a Nightcrawler Miles Morales combo guaranteed because of pool 1-2 cards, right, to combine with it made him very appealing. But I think now in the days of the She-Hulk card doing the same energy reduction essentially, but for more power, why play Miles Morales with something else and have to move it? And then Death, being like down to 0 cost and stuff, and 12 power, Miles Morales only being 5, he just doesn't hold the same value as those cards. And he's also, if I'm not mistaken, been reduced to pool 3. If not, he's pool 4.
Who?
Miles Morales. I believe he has been reduced to pool 3. I'm going to check my
Pool
bot.
3. He's pool 3, yeah. Pretty sure he's pool 3.
Yep.
By the way,
I double checked the bot.
Make that 3 cube, 3 8 cube game.
See, chat, it's all about the retreats and the cubes. But yeah, so Miles Morales got reduced really soon, but I think he's weaker. So will Silver Surfer and whatnot, because Black Panther's getting the reduction, will Silver Surfer still follow that same pattern, or is he considered more powerful?
I see Surfer getting getting a reduction.
But
I don't see him going all the way.
Yeah, it might be a while till he's pool 3. It might be a while. We'd have to see a few battle passes, I think, before that.
Yeah, I think the game would have to be probably like a year in.
Yeah, at least closer to it than we are now.
Or full release, maybe.
Yeah.
Because it's still technically early on. So.
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be till full release because we don't have the map for that. But it definitely, I'd say, later in the year than sooner for sure. And Black Panther, we just seen is getting reduced to pool 4. So will he be pool 3 at some point? I feel like probably, because Cosmo and whatnot, you can counter him fairly easily or force him into a certain lane. Shang-Chi, if you're not maintaining prio, stuff like that. So I feel like Black Panther's more easily dealt with. That reducing him is not that big a deal. But Zabu, I think they're going to keep Zabu in pool 5 for a bit before they pull him down. I don't know if they'll follow the same precedent of 2 months and knock him down kind of thing. But I think we'll really know when we see what happens with Surfer in a month's time after Quantumania is done. That would really tell us what their plan is for these cards, if they're going to stick to this 2 month and done kind of thing. Alright, so up next we got screen grabs. For the screen grabs this week, we mostly have mine because Jared was sick, but there's some pretty good ones. So the first one I call Dino Go Shopping at the Gap. I called it that because it's a tie in the middle at Elysium with a Dino. This is when I was playing Quinjet, but I still had Cable instead of Mystique. And then, so I played the Dino at Limbo there, and I won by 20. He was only beating me at Murder World by 4, so Dino definitely, he went shopping at the gap. Big gap play right there to take home that 4-cube win. Which is cool, because I didn't really, as you can see, I didn't curve out to have my Spidey, and I played my White Queen and my Cable and got 2 magics. I mean, no. I played 2 White Queens, I'm sure of it, that I got magics, but I don't know where the other White Queen went. But in any case, yeah, it's pretty interesting game, and I really liked the fact that Dino can do what Dino does. But I won't have to rely on a 5-6 Dino clone situation in the future because of the Mystique situation, so that'll be kind of cool. This next one I called 1 is the poneliest number because, bruh, I won by 1, dude. This man had an Iron Man on an Angela. Why? Like if he had played that Iron Man on Limbo, I'm just saying he would have won the game.
Yeah, Iron Man on Angela doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know why dude did what dude did. I think the deck I was playing for this one was my ongoings and goings on. Or it was Death Wave, but I think it was ongoings and goings on. But I can't be sure. I just say that because it had Typhoid Mary and Jubilee, but I've also got like a Sif in there. I don't know where that came from. But yeah, that was an interesting game. I literally won by 1. And Red Skull buffs up his side too. So I'm going to assume if you take 6 off of that, he's got an 8. So if he had played Iron Man there, literally he wins by 1. And 1 would still be the poneliest number just for him.
I won a game that should have been a tie. So, this week, like when I got back from being sick.
Interesting.
The math, like we tied. It was tied, but it gave me the victory.
That's weird.
Yeah, I didn't get a grab of it because I was just kind of like, what?
That would have been interesting to see, so I could dissect that and figure that one out. This next grab I got here, this one is like, this is what you want to do with Sinister London, Zabu's Spidey situation. This poor guy just retreated so fast after turn 5 because I fucking triple Spidey'd and I had double Zabu'd and I double Chi'd. Like, I don't know where my other Chi went, but
He was winning.
yeah.
Too, like,
Oh, he retreated before the turn flips ended, dude. That's why you don't see 2 Chis for the double Chi. My Chi hadn't copied to Cosmos to kill Thor yet. He was just like, nope, I'm out.
just instantly, like, yeah.
Because he knew. Yeah, because it looks like I lost this on the surface, right? Because he's got 2 leading and all that. But I won this because he retreated. Yeah. He retreated before Shang-Chi could kill Thor. Because he was just like, nope, I'm out. Fuck this shit. 3 Spideys. Nothing I can do now. It was so fucking funny.
I mean, he's not wrong. There's nothing he could have done.
Yeah, I was killing both of those Thors. So it was going to be a sweep. That's just an example of just how nasty Zabujet can be.
That's why you always stack up. You don't just put...
Well, he was playing off Sinister London, so he was doing Thor Mjolnir there to get it over to Crimson Cosmos because he'd already filled Mojoworld.
Yeah, but still, you gotta... You can't just rely on your Thor to...
Well,
do that.
I don't think he was. I think his plan was his turn 6 Silver Surfer and whatever. You know what I mean? Because he was going to buff the shit out of Brood. But he never got the chance because I locked up all the lanes. If he had been able to do that, depending on what the second card was, yeah, maybe he's got something going. Like if his second card was Maximus or some shit, you know? Then okay.
even if you didn't say you didn't Spidey, you just Shang-Chi, right?
Yeah.
You still probably would have won that.
I mean, probably, but it's not guaranteed. But the 3 Spideys definitely was like, well, there's no point in playing this. Granted, the 3rd Spidey, he played Mr. Fantastic there, so I don't really need him. But if I had...
winning it without Spidey. You didn't need Spidey.
Yeah. The thing is, the Spidey in the middle is how you get the Spidey on the right guaranteed. Or, I mean, on the left guaranteed. So if I didn't Spidey middle, in case he doesn't play Mr. Fantastic there, because I didn't know what he was doing, then I can't play the Spidey to replicate to Crimson Cosmos guaranteed. But pretty fun.
Yeah.
This next one I called Double the Shuri, Double the Fun. This is the last one we got. So I played Shuri, Spidey, Shuri, Spidey. And then dude comes in with Ultron, as you can see. He was like, "Ha! I'm not afraid of your double Spidey. I've got Ultron." And I'm like, that's a cool story, but here's a little Enchantress for that Ultron. And his Blue Marvel and his Mystique that had copied the Patriot from the Peak. Well...
Ultron bought the weak, and even with Patriot.
Well, that's because I nuked his Blue Marvel and Mystique, you see. He had 2 Patriots. That should have been +4, +1, +5 to all those drones. So he should have had another 3 on him. Yeah, but I nuked his Mystique and his Blue Marvel. So he didn't get 2 Patriots. He didn't get a Blue Marvel. He didn't get a +5. He just got a +2. Sucks to suck.
Enchantress for the win.
Yeah. That's why this deck is super powerful, because not only can you put up the uncheeable Spideys that I did, you can chi back if you need to, you know, because I killed something off of the Peak. He had something big there at one point, and I killed it. And then the Ultron bots, you know, were like, oh, well, I can still get this done, but he couldn't. So it was pretty funny. And then, you know, this is pretty much a good example of that turn 5 double Spidey, how this whole thing works. So that's pretty much screen grabs, and then after this we'll bring you some community decks. The first community deck we got here is from King Mike. And it says filler, but we actually called it Clogged Toilet on stream when he was streaming and we were watching him build this. So it's Nightcrawler, Titania, Mojo, Mr. Sinister, Armor, Viper, Green Goblin, Cosmo, Debris, Hobgoblin, Doctor Doom, and Magneto. And basically it's called Clogged Toilet because it's got a lot of stuff that just sits in their lanes, eating up space, and they can't play cards. You know, you put Green Goblin and Hobgoblin and Debris out there, and that's 4 spaces that they can't play. That's a whole lane effectively taken away worth of power. You play a card in Viper, you do Titania just right, that's, you know, 2 more. You've literally taken half their field away from that play alone.
Titania's... Yeah, that's mean. That's just mean.
Yeah. Because it's in the deck not to be on your side necessarily. The whole point is it doesn't fucking matter, because wherever she ends up, she ends up. And
you don't see that style deck very often, so
no.
You're not gonna.
So you're not gonna what?
You're not gonna telegraph it.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna be able to retreat until it's too late.
Yeah, it's gonna look like a zoo until you realize, oh, they're a lane clog deck. Fuck. Or, depending on how stuff comes out, you might think Galactus because of the Goblin-Hobgoblin situation. You know, like if you had a lane that you hadn't played in yet, they might think that's what you're doing. You know, there's a lot of room for that.
It could also be a counter deck, like card countering in the sense that, like, they're hoping to keep control of Titania because Titania's got the power.
Right.
So, like, at least that's usually what Titania decks are, right? You find a way to eliminate that ability.
Yeah.
Or you try to keep control of the lanes at the last second.
Yeah.
To get Titania.
Well, and I think if Titania stays over there, it's not the biggest of deals, because she might be in a lane where there's a -3 or a -8. She might be in a lane where there's a 0 or a 0. She might be in a lane where you play Mojo at the end, and her being over there, you get a +6 anyway, so who gives a fuck? You know, like you're still up 1 on the whole thing. So there's a lot of value in not canceling Titania on this, and not having her on your side.
Well, usually, like when you see a Titania, you're expecting something completely different.
Like 0 Titania or something like that.
Yeah,
or Sauron, and then you play Titania late turn or some shit. Yeah.
Save Titania turn 6 so that they can't.
Yeah, you Sauron going into that. Exactly. Or save it for
or
6 so they can't.
Titania on a spot that they're already full.
Yeah. And that's another thing that you could end up doing to them, right? You could end up filling one of their spots, play Titania, you're fine. So she's got a lot of play in this deck. Real nice. Definitely real nice. And then with Doc Doom, you fill your side. With Magneto, you can move stuff away at the end. So that allows you that whole, like, am I playing Galactus kind of situation? Because a lot of times you leave a lane open for Magneto just to be by himself with a bunch of crap.
I think I've seen Galactus a total of 2 times.
I've seen him a fair few.
And only one of those times was the person that actually had him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Other time was...
like a draw.
A raft, yeah.
Okay. So the next one we have is from Clown from Malkuvius' community. He contributed 2 decks this week. So they gave us this one first, Drac Zula. Yeah, it's a Zoo, and it's got Drac. And it's got Angela, so it's Drac Zula. It's got Ant-Man, Elektra, Squirrel Girl, Sunspot, Iceman, Nightcrawler, Angela, Bishop, Captain America, Dracula, Khazar, and Infinaut. And he gave me the notes on how to run the deck, so...
I like that.
I knew it was coming. You were going to say you don't know.
Every time I see Khazar, man. I'm like, yes, someone's using Khazar!
Yeah, and so you might be able to run this, because it actually has an effective curve to not get countered by Killmonger. Check this out.
I love Khazar.
So check this out. This is the ideal curve out for this deck. You play on turn 2, Angela. On turn 3, Bishop. On turn 4, Dracula. On turn 5, Khazar. At which point they go, huh? Or they go, oh shit. And because you don't have prio, they go, oh shit. Because they can't just Killmonger you. And so then on turn 6, you go, and just throw 6/1 cost cards out there, like, suck it, nerd, and win the game.
Now, this is me being dumb.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't play Bishop same lane you play Angela, right? You play Bishop opposite lane.
I would try to do that. That way you're buffing cards in separate spots. Yes.
So you do Angela, say, far left, you Bishop far right, depending.
Yeah, or just, as long as they're in 2 different lanes, yeah, you're good there.
You'd probably put Khazar the opposite as well, right?
Well, no, because you're gonna want Dracula somewhere. So I mean, you could put Khazar where you do put Dracula, but
then that's one lane too tall.
Yeah, you're gonna have one lane that's like really tall. So I think you'd be better off if you're gonna put Khazar and Dracula in the same spot, then you want to put Angela and Bishop in the same spot. You know, but I think you know it gives you some value in where you can place stuff. So depending on which way you curve, you play them in different positions. You know what I mean?
I might get you to send me the code for this deck.
Yeah, I can do that. Absolutely.
I don't know if I have Dracula yet. But...
Yeah, now Dracula's just nasty because nothing counters him. Just nothing. Other than, like, Mindscape.
That's the only card that I'm questionable on whether or not I have. I don't know if I have Dracula.
Yeah. That one's just nice because you have Infinaut in your hand and you never play it. That's all he's there for. Because that's what that Infinaut does. It's not to get played. It's just to sit there in your hand for Dracula to go nom 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 at the end. Because if you think about playing that curve, right, you removed 4 cards, right? Four of those cards in the middle, and then you've got Cap, Infinaut, and 6 1-costs. So you're going to have played literally everything, but like it's going to be a 50-50 most times at that point if you've drawn every card you have completely, which you're not. So Infinaut's basically going to be the last card in your hand pretty much every fucking time you play this, in which case Dracula's always a 20. That's why I was saying you probably actually would want to play Angela and Bishop on top of each other unless you needed to split push the lanes, knowing that you're going to win Dracula Infinaut, because they went too tall in one spot. That'd be the only reason to really split them apart necessarily. Or you split them apart so that Ant-Man can be on one, Captain America can be on the other, you know what I mean, kind of thing going on.
I do not have Dracula. Okay.
And Sunspot's there because there could be times you don't curve out and he can just eat up the energy. And then if you do curve out, well, look at that, because Czar makes him more powerful, so whatever. Either way, you win. So it's a real strong concept here. There are some notes. So like if you so you only play a 1-cost early if you're confident there's no incoming Killmonger. That's why there is no turn 1 play. That's why literally turn 1 in this curve is
sit and wait.
Just do nothing. Yep. So yeah, it's a really good strat because you see a lot of cards coming out, and by the time they realize that the 1-costs are happening, they've probably already snapped and can't retreat.
Basically, you don't lay any 1-cost cards until the final turn.
Exactly. And then because you don't have Prio, even if they Killmonger, like, because they realize as soon as you play that Khazar on turn 5, they're like, oh shit, they're going to fucking dump the 1-cost. Well, you're behind, so you win. Because they can't Killmonger you. Because you won't have Prio. That's the goal. Because Dracula's a 0. Your biggest card's literally a 0 till the game ends. Like, it's so perfectly designed that way. And then in terms of a flex card, you can take Elektra out and put in Red Skull instead. And the theory behind this one is if you're finding that you don't get Dracula buffed up enough by just having Infinaut, putting a Red Skull in there will double your odds because it's a 15 power card and you're not actually ever going to play him, so his ongoing's never going to actually affect anything.
Clever.
Yeah. So that's the Drakzula deck. Very, very, very nasty. Can be very effective. And it uses a lot of like more commonly available cards as opposed to like, pool 4, pool 5, exotic cards, So
yeah, the only card that I don't have is Dracula.
Yeah, and he's not like, he's still just pool 3, you know what I mean? He's not that exotic, but he can be a card you don't have, yeah.
Yeah, I just haven't.
Yeah. I don't have a flex card for Dracula, but I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can figure something out. Yeah. Now, the next deck we have is also a clown special, and this one's called Shirley Goblin. Gobbling it up because this one has Hobby in there, right? Hobgoblin. So you've got Daredevil, Viper, Zabu, Lady Sif, Shuri, Ghost Rider, Enchantress, Rescue, Hobgoblin, Red Skull, Magneto, and Infinaut. Now, that Sif's there to kill the Red Skull, Magneto, or Infinaut. Preferably the Magneto or Infinaut. Preferably the Infinaut. And when you do that, then we've talked about earlier in the podcast, earlier in this episode, with the trios combos today, built around Sif and Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider gets played after Sif, brings back that big card you killed. Woohoo! Big power, for cheap. And because you're playing it in a Zabu situation, that Ghost Rider can cost 2. So for 2 power, you can have like a 23 or a 15 or an 18 power swing. That's sexy as fuck. Like, that's pretty awesome. And then with Viper, what you can actually do is if for some reason, say they send Hobgoblin back, like they negative Odin for some reason. I don't know why you'd play Odin in a negative man deck, Mr. Negative deck, but say they do. They send the Hobgoblin back. Well, Viper goes, no, you keep that shit. I don't want it. So Viper's there for in case some reason they send the Hobgoblin back. You could potentially also see value in sending a Red Skull over to buff you, knowing that, like, you're going to have more cards in a lane than they are potentially, but that's risky. But it's mostly there, like Clown said, just in case they send back the Goblin somehow so that you don't have a -8 sitting on your lane. And the Red Skull is in case you don't pull the Goblin. You're going to play him on turn 5. That's the specific note for that. And you're going to want to play him on their emptier lane just so, he's not buffing it up a lot. That's where Magneto's going to come into play. If Ghost Rider didn't bring him back and brought the Infinaut back, you'll want to Magneto stuff away from Red Skull if you can on the last turn. That way he's not buffing +2 to as many cards over there. That way his 15 has more power. Real punch over there. And so, like, basically the deck naturally insulates against the need for Shang-Chi because you're putting stuff in their side or whatnot, or drawing big cards out easily in such a way that you don't need to necessarily Shang-Chi their big cards because you're going to reduce their lane by 8 with Hobgoblin, or you're going to move cards away with Magneto, or you're going to bring an Infinaut out with Ghost Rider, or you're going to Shuri duplicate. I mean, look at that stuff that you can duplicate with Shuri. If you played Shuri into Red Skull, you got a 30. That's fucking gross. And he still only gives +8 at most to the other side. 30 -8 is still a 22, baby. That's bigger than Infinaut. Like, that's nasty. So, all in all, this deck's gross. And Rescue becomes, what, I believe a 9? She has +5 if you just play a follow-up card there, so it's easier than just Jones. If you've got Zabu and you've made a lot of 4 costs small, it's easier to even play a card on Rescue. So you got a lot of options there to make things really, really sing. And, so with Rescue, one of the options would be obviously to play Hobgoblin on there the next turn. Gives you a +5 and them a -8. And that's pretty nasty. And a lot of times that's going to work out in your favor because when you see a Rescue, you're like, okay, they're going to go tall there. So you tend to not play there knowing that the next turn it's going to +5. So you tend to play away from that lane after that. And knowing that, they're not likely to fill it, which means you can Rescue into Hobgoblin, get a +5 for yourself and a -8 for them almost every time. So that's pretty nice. But all in all, a very solid deck. Now, going back to that 3 combo before with Death, you can do that instead of Infinaut as well, because Sif always targets Death. So if you find that you like the craftiness of Red Skull and Magneto, and you would rather use them than have them be destroyed and drawn back, then Death is the card you want to play instead of Infinaut, because you will get her killed every time, and then you can still play Red Skull and Magneto. But that's pretty much how to run that deck, and
out of the decks that we've talked about this week, my favorite is definitely the Draxula.
the Draxula, yeah, I figured you'd like that one because of the Khazar and the 1 cost, because you're a sucker for that. That's the Khazar
deck you were telling me that you're like, I'm pretty sure you're...
Yes, that is exactly the deck. Yeah, when I told you earlier in the week, I've got a Khazar deck you'll like, that was it.
Okay.
So that brings us to the end of community decks, and so we'll hit you with Clip Show crossover, and then we will see you for the weekend episode later this week. And we'll have more info on the tourney. We'll have more info on battle mode and stuff like that. And if you want your clips, your screen grabs, your decks featured, drop us a follow, subscribe, drop us a comment, let us know what's up, send us an email, whatever you need to do, and we will try to get you involved. If you want to be a guest and you're a streamer, let us know. We can arrange that. And then, like always, got to pimp out the spreadsheet. We've got the Excel sheet that you can go to from the podcast resources and use that to track your games. The new one will be out. We'll talk about that next week a bit more in depth. The new one will be out with the new season. It's going to have win-loss tracking and win-loss tracking by deck. And it's going to have win-loss tracking by deck over the course of multiple seasons. So it's going to be a really sick update to that one. I think you're going to enjoy it. And if you're not using it now, you're going to want to use it next season. So, Excelsior, true snappers. And you got anything, Jer?
Nope, just enjoy the end of the season and see you next season.
Yep, we will see you in a week.
Yeah, yep. No fucking with the yay, yo, too. I fucked up already. Spaghetti, yo. Oh, shit. Wait, dude. Oh, Cosmo's just for lane. Oh, shit. He's fucked. He's so fucked. That's a forfeit, right? That's the app, right? Fantastic forfeit. Dutch luck. Fuck. Oh, fuck. This guy's so fucking lucky.
With the gambit, but it didn't happen. All right, well, you can clip this afterwards. Every card. I should give him the I mean, I wonder how many times in his career someone actually stayed to the end to let him do this. That's why he didn't snap. He's like, I just want to do this because it's funny. He did. He got the perfect location. Good for him. He cleared the board. He literally cleared the board. Like, it's gonna keep doing this forever. Oh my gosh, he ruined the game. How long do we have to sit here? Oh my gosh, this is so annoying. Can I like close the game?
Oh, that was so fucking dirty. Right, Dippy? This is like one of my favorite decks, man. It's so nasty. Oh, he gave the thing. I'm gonna give him the fist bump because he's chill. That was cool, though. Clip it. Yeah, go for it, man. That was great, though. He beat me by one with... Where each deck fitted, even though I'm prone to snap that. Known to be so quick-witted, you sound Drax when you snap back. When everyone knows it rains Jess Jones on the tap mat. Think your boss sings the flow, administer vision if you're not at the spot I blow with a skip track. You tried to blow back the roof, so my armor said I will skip that. Jubilee still got a +1, Okoye said she's with that. Cause the Nightman cometh, Iceman stunneth, while the Hulkman smashing America ass who done it? Snapverse 616 Snapverse 616 Snapverse 616 Snapverse 616. Then Invoke drops Kazar cause he's Mr. Fantastic. His spectrum of skills are what let me handle this rap shit. His puff up, his clutch up, smokes 3 sacks like it's magic. But it's a Wolfsbane classic. You thought your full moon's Jurassic, but it's actually tragic. If I'm a silver fox with the flippity yippity yapping, he's quick like a rabbit. His girls unfurling squirrels while his flirkins hurling antics. Invoke the hawk-eyed watcher who ought to see through your static.